Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Excited because Booker's 2024 Batch 2 has just landed. Actually, surprisingly made it up to Michigan really fast this year, which is shocking. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks after it was dropping in the distillery. So I actually got a bottle from the distillery, and prematurely, because I assumed it would be a long time before I saw him up here. And then once mine came in, I started getting posts on my local group. People were like, oh, found this at the store. I'm like, of course he did. Of course he did. But that's okay. We're going to dive into Batch 2 here today and see if it's any better or worse than Batch 1 was. Let's do it. So we'll see how it stacks up to Batch 1 was the Springfield batch. I gave it a 7.1 in my review, which is a pretty decent score. I noted that it was a bit of a deviation. It had a whole lot of like barrel funk, warehouse funk on the finish, and that's one of the things that sort of made it stand out to me. It was also the oldest expression we've had in a long time at 7 years, 7 months. This one is just slightly higher proof, so this is not Springfield batch. The second batch is called the Beam House batch, and I'll read the write-up for you in a second. But it is 7 years and 2 months old, so 5 months younger basically, and it is 1/10 of a proof point hotter. So I think Springfield was 124.5, this is 124.6, so pretty much the same proof here. As always, MSRP on these is usually right around 90 bucks, is about what you'll find it for. I got mine from the distillery, so it was 100 flat there. This is the write-up. This is the Beam House batch. The batch story. The second release of the Booker's 2024 collection is Booker's Batch 2, the Beam House batch. This batch is named after my family's home, a real special place full of beginnings, traditions, and memories, not just for me, but for everyone at Beam. I grew up just around the corner and lived next door for years before moving in after Dad passed away. The Beam House, as the name suggests, has been part of my family for generations. My great-granddad, Jim Beam, lived there. My dad, Booker No, lived there, and now I do. Just sort of the way it goes in our family. So just sort of a nod to their sort of family heritage, as all these stories tend to be. This one specifically honoring just the way that they ran their household and the family camaraderie, the Sunday dinners, and all that stuff, which is great. Good Southern family values. We appreciate that. It's a lot like my family was growing up too. Okay, let's get in here, and we'll see how the Beam House batch fares. Again, there is, by the way, no connection between the name of the batch and what it tastes like. Those two things are planned separately. So those things happen separately. They're not connected at all. Getting in here on the nose. You know, I'm hip. First thing I get is that Hallmark Beam nuttiness, but it's not that same roasted peanut note I'm typically used to getting on Beam products, specifically on most Booker's bottles. This is more like a macadamia nut. I think of like a white chocolate macadamia nut cookie on the nose. Yeah, bright vanillas, that macadamia white nut, sort of a bready quality to it as well, which makes me think of like that baked cookie dough. Yeah, it's a very appealing nose. I like that a lot, actually. It is very sweet on the nose. Lots of vanilla, nut, and sweet dough. Fairly viscous and oily on the side of the glass, which is to be expected. Let's get in here and try it. Cheers. That is a toffee bomb right there. You know, everything that we got on the nose is there on the palate. All those things are represented here, but there's also more going on with the sip that I wasn't getting on the nose as well. That macadamia nut comes back around towards late in the palate and then stretches out into the finish with some of that barrel funk. Those bright vanillas right up front on the sip. I think of those toasted caramels like toffee. But I'm also, halfway through the palate and late into the palate, I'm getting this like coffee note, like fresh coffee grounds. You know, I grind all my coffee beans every morning by hand. Is it optimal? Is it time efficient? No. It's just something cathartic that I like to do. I start my day off the same way every morning. First thing I do is I let the dog out, and then while she's doing her business, I start measuring out my beans, get it in my hand grinder, let her back in, get her food, go back and grind them up by hand. That's my same routine every single morning, and there's something cathartic about it. So I start my day with those fresh coffee grounds first thing in the morning, and I'm getting that fresh coffee grounds note late on the palate on this, which I really like. Yeah, it's sweet, and then it's bitter, and then it's sweet again. It's like a coffee sandwich. It starts with those vanillas and those toffees and caramels up front, transitions into those bitter coffee notes, and even sort of dark chocolatey kind of vibes, and then into the finish, we leave those bitter notes behind, and we're left with the barrel funk and the macadamia nut. I honestly really like that. I think I like that more than the Springfield batch. Not by much, but a little bit more. I still think 2023 batch 4 has been my favorite Booker's bottle of late. But this is really good. I don't think it's better than 2023-04. And I also really like Kentucky tea, even though not a lot of people did. I actually really like Kentucky tea. But this is definitely a good Booker's. You know, sometimes you kind of roll in the dice in these Booker's batches. You don't know what you're going to get. Is it going to be a deviation from the standard? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Somewhere in between. I think this is a good Booker's bottle. I like it more than batch 1. Very tasty. I like that bitter deviation. You know, I like when a sip kind of has a few different varied nuances, you know what I mean? Where it's not just all sweet, it's not just all pastry and flaky. You know, there's some other things going on there that sort of give you a little bit of a journey along the sip, which is something that I tend to like out of a bottle that's a little bit more pricey. Not that, I mean, there's definitely more pricey bottles out there than a Booker's bottle at 80 to 90 bucks if you're getting it at MSRP. But it's still a fair amount of money. You want something noteworthy out of that sip, and I think this provides something that is noteworthy, and I like it. So if I were to give this a score per my scale, I think that I would land at a 7.3. Let's call it a 7.3. It's a good Booker's bottle. It's not the best Booker's I've ever had, but I like it quite a bit. And it speaks to me because it's notes that I tend to really get down with and I jive with. Of the 2 batches we've had this year, I think this is the one that I prefer. And there you have it. That is the Beam House 2024 Batch 2, the review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hey, if this is your first time here, consider hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to see you around more often. Stop by, kick your shoes off, stay a while. And we also have a Discord group. Totally free to join. You can hop in there. We have great discussions in there all the time. And then we also have a Patreon group. Big shout out to my Patreon supporters because you guys bought this bottle. You funded this bottle with your Patreon funds from last month that came in. So thank you so much for your support. You're the reason I can pick up these bottles and review them regularly. So the channel would not exist without your support. For that, I am eternally grateful. If you want to get involved with the Patreon group, we do all kinds of fun things together. We have our own private chats. We have do like bottle shares and stuff like that. A number of patrons I have sent some samples from my stuff to personally. You know, I think Randy in our group was the most recent recipient of some nice stuff from my shelf. So always like to give back to the Patreon supporters. You can join the Patreon group for as little as $1 a month. And there's other tiers as well with different benefits. So big shout out to you guys. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on it. It's the best free way to support the content. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.